Hey there, and happy Groundhog Day. This is Chief Meteorologist Ben Pine in the WHS 11 News First Alert Storm Team Weather Center on this February 2nd, 2022. I'm going to discuss here with anchorman Doug Proffitt your questions about the ice storm. We're going to time it out and really take a deep dive here in just a moment. We will wait for some folks to get on board, and Doug will be here in just a moment. And
Hi everybody, I'm Doug Proffitt, getting ready for the ice storm. The WHS 1119 is in areas of Indiana tonight, where the switchover will begin first. Live team coverage ahead for you, people clearing out grocery store shelves and stocking up on supplies. Coverage you can count on from the 19.
Thanks for liking or sharing our Facebook Live, YouTube Live stream here right at 6:30, now 6:31. On this Wednesday, we've had just rainfall across the area. We might need a little bit of light. There we go. Fantastic. All right, we're definitely going to look at your comments, your questions, and hopefully we'll have a lot of great answers for you thanks to our Futurecast timeline. And we're going to show you the all-important 32-degree line. That's going to be when the icing begins or shortly thereafter once it moves into your area. So I want to start, before Doug moves over here, we'll go graphics full screen with the alerts. Let's go through this. It's kind of complicated. We've got 3 different winter weather alerts for tomorrow. And in fact, the first one, the winter storm warning for Jackson, Jennings, and Lawrence counties, starts in about 28 minutes at 7 p.m. And that's when that shallow layer of Arctic air will be moving that direction first. I think we're just going to see some light icing up around Bedford, Mitchell, Brownstown, Seymour, North Vernon. You guys are going to mix in more sleet and snow. You could see 3, maybe 6 inches of a mix of some sleet and snow up that way. Now let's move farther to the south. The ice storm warning in purple for southern Indiana, so north of the river, kicks in at 1 o'clock in the morning, and that means we could see a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of ice, along with an additional 1 to 3 inches of some sleet and snow in that location. Well, let's move farther south of the river, from Louisville into central Kentucky. We're looking at a 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of ice. That might be the zone. We talked about the Goldilocks zone for the ice from the Ohio River down to the parkways, along with a little bit of sleet and snow. So you're looking at more of that solid ice in those locations. That begins at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Adair County is the only county that has just a winter weather advisory for tomorrow into Friday morning. And we will go to our full screen, and I'll back out just a little bit. There's Doug Proffitt.
Hello, Ben. Did I actually hear you begin this saying Happy Groundhog Day? I don't know a meteorologist, especially you, that likes the groundhog.
Let's have fun with it, you know. Someday I want to go to Punxsutawney and have a ball there.
Yeah, when it's really coming down strong.
I'm tired of putting down the groundhog. I'm going to let everybody have a good time.
I never thought you would acknowledge the groundhog. I've worked with many meteorologists over the years. We weren't allowed to mention the groundhog. They hated the groundhog.
I don't even know if he saw a shadow. I haven't paid attention.
Oh my gosh! Well,
Did
somebody
he couldn't have.
You better tell us. We've got the comments up already here. And by the way, we want to thank you for joining us. We're going to be here for 30 minutes, so it's your time to really ask Ben specific questions. This is valuable time for him as we get closer to the approach of the storm, which is now
one of the first questions. When will it start? That's an important question for all of us.
And another one, do I have a window tomorrow in Metro Louisville to drive and get last minute stuff done?
Yeah.
And what is that window? How many hours?
I think it's going to be in the morning. I don't think things are going to get real bad until the afternoon, when things really start to deteriorate late afternoon into the evening time. Now that's
saw
for
his shadow. Saw his shadow.
See, that's impossible. It was cloudy up there. I don't buy that. All right, so look at this storm here. This is I said it, just a couple minutes ago on the newscast. Whopper of a winter storm. You don't see this very often, all the way from the desert Southwest to the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, up to New England. From border to border, we've got this winter storm. So airline traffic's going to be messed up, regional travel. And if you look at the entirety, is that a word?
Mm-hmm. Let's call it the big picture.
Look at the big picture here. That little sliver of purple is right over us. That's the only part that's dealing with a lot of the ice.
it has focused right on us. And one good thing about this 30 minutes is we can really give you news you can use. People have been texting us since 5 o'clock, and one of our viewers wants to know when will be the best time to put down salt on walkways and driveways, which would match up with the time.
I discussed this with my wife earlier today because we got some of that ice melt, 40-pound bag of it. Hopefully it'll be enough.
Is she carrying the 40-pound bag?
Yeah. Strong woman. All right.
and she also has to put it down. I know my wife's the same way. Every bad storm, we're gone.
I'll tell you this, too. The kids better help or they'll be in trouble.
There you go.
So it's going to be rain tonight for most of us. Once you start to see that temperature go below freezing, start putting out that salt, and that'll certainly help things out because that's when, of course, things will start to freeze over. Now, the question about 32 degrees, when does it happen in your neighborhood? We're going to look at Futurecast hour by hour in just a moment, so stay tuned for that.
And let's go back to, I do want to reemphasize to people, because I know yesterday, Ben, you may not have caught on a limb, but you very strongly said this will not be like 2009. 2009 is in all of our minds. Mm-hmm. And you said it last night, and then the National Weather Service, John Gordon, came out at 3:30 this afternoon, and he said the same thing. But it's important to know that we really can't lower our awareness and concern over the storm because it's still enough ice to cause trouble.
Yeah, the messaging still needs to be very serious about this. We could still have major impacts and power outages and tree damage across the area, and of course treacherous driving conditions. So all that's still on the table. The difference is the forecast for this storm is about a half-inch less than in 2009, but there's going to be different amounts of ice across the area, and we'll take a look at that as well. I want to show you this full screen. There is the 32-degree line getting closer to Bedford, Indiana. That is that pink line right there. So that's your switch over to rain, to some icing. So getting closer and closer. And I also want to emphasize, we talked about this as well, Doug. Icing is a very gradual process. You're not going to get slammed with ice right away. It takes a while for this accretion, this accumulation to happen on the trees and power lines on your deck and on the streets and the porch and the sidewalks. So again, I think it's kind of a slow process through the morning time. Things get worse and worse as we get through the daytime tomorrow.
Mary Daughtery says, today is my birthday. My husband ordered snow for me, but I think he got confused. But I do think this was a great reminder, since we've been saying this on television, our television newscasts all day. Pamela is a professional driver. If you don't need to be out, don't. And the government leaders have said today, just stay off the roads Thursday and Friday. But if you do go out, have plenty of supplies, blankets, food, water, be safe. Keep a good following distance. Have something that you can eat in case you do get stranded.
And you know, when the salt trucks put out the treatment on the main routes, a lot of times they can stay pretty good shape for a while. But once you start to get some sleet and snow on top of it, tomorrow evening can be really rough.
Christina, is Carroll County, Kentucky under the ice storm warning? That's a great question, Christina. It always seems to me we're left out of the warnings and normally get hit. I'm fine if this misses us.
So this is the, you guys are under a winter storm warning for ice, sleet, and snow. So don't take your guard down in Carroll County.
And so the switchover will be happening in southern Indiana. What time do you think tonight?
All right, so we're going to look at Futurecast after two maps here. I want to show you first the biggest impact, and that is our ice. And notice the darker color, that's worse. So that darker color is from the Ohio River down to the Bluegrass and Western Kentucky Parkway. So that includes Louisville down to Bardstown, Elizabethtown, Litchfield, and in between. That's where we could see around 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of ice. You get north of that, you're going to mix in more sleet, more snow, so lighter amounts of ice. The farther north you go, lighter amounts south of the parkways because you're mixing in more rain for longer. So I continue to say that kind of Goldilocks zone, that bullseye area right now is lining up from the Ohio River and down to the parkways. Now, as far as the snow accumulations, that's pretty significant as well for the northern half of the area. Notice we could see anywhere from 1 to 5 inches, depending on how far north you go, and then almost nothing as far as snowfall once you get farther off to the south. Now, here is that timeline that we have so many questions about. So this is midnight, and notice that pink line, that's your freezing line. That's when you start to switch over to some icing, and it could be just some very light icing at first and no major impacts. Again, this is going to take a while to get worse and worse. So Bedford, Paoli, Jasper, Seymour, North Vernon, Scottsburg, midnight or just a little bit later after midnight, you're starting to go below freezing. Notice that freezing line moves down to the Ohio River, Interstate 71. around daybreak, around sunrise tomorrow morning. That's at 7 a.m. where we've got it stopped right here. Watch that freezing line move southbound as we head into the afternoon down towards the parkways. Notice the dropping temperatures as well. The pink color, that indicates sleet and freezing rain. The blue color, that is your snowfall. So by afternoon hours, we're looking at the potential of snow on top of the ice over southern Indiana and north of the river there. And then as we go deeper into tomorrow night, you've got some light icing over Kentucky, some light snow over Indiana. So the mess continues across the area. And look at this, more bonus light snow into Friday morning. So light accumulations could continue, dropping temperatures, upper teens, lower 20s. So a very slick and hazardous Friday morning drive. No melting Friday afternoon in the 20s. And we stay below freezing through Saturday. Sunday afternoon, Doug, I think we'll finally go back above freezing.
Sherry Phelps from Louisville. Will the current rainfall have any impact on the ground treatment, the salt, or and et cetera? Great question, Sherry, and the mayor and the Metro Public Works spent a lot of time talking about it.
And we've talked a lot about that the last couple of days. You do not treat the roads when you've got rain. So until we start to see the icing, that's when they'll start to put out the salt and the treatment. There's just no point. It'll wash off.
I do want to show this tweet. This is from our Tom Lally. I'll try to put it up to
Here, I'll go full screen.
Put it up to the screen here. He is in southern Indiana. There you go, if you can see that. Take a look. They have no generators. He said about 30 people came in looking for it, and they sold out. He is in Seymour, Indiana, and that's where Tom is now. We sent him up there for our report on the night team at 11 because we want to see that front line.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be switching over.
And I went to go get propane. They were out of propane in some areas, so all different kinds of supplies are kind of running out at this point in time. I've heard the grocery stores are crazy today.
Yeah, we are watching your comments here live. Again, we're going to be on the air with you on the Facebook page posting here for 30 minutes right up to 7 o'clock. Tell us what it was like. Did you go to a supermarket anywhere in Kentucky? Tell us what where you went and what you saw. We know people have really waited to the last minute, although we've been telling folks about this since Sunday.
Yeah.
And once again, this system really locked in by Monday. You all were confident that this was a certainty.
And I've been prepping since Monday as well. I mean, I cut firewood Monday. Yesterday, I was out getting supplies. So if the weatherman's getting ready, maybe you should too.
That's a good point. And so by 11 o'clock tonight, Ben, are we still going to be in rain?
Depends on your location. Louisville, yes. But up north, where we saw in Futurecast in parts of southern Indiana, we're starting to see that chance of some light icing up around Bedford, Indiana. Here's the order of operations as far as the negative impacts. You're going to see some icing on the trees, power lines, elevated objects, handrails, porches, decks. Then you're going to start to see some slick bridges and overpasses. The air goes underneath the bridges and overpasses, so they freeze first. And then later in the afternoon and evening time, we'll start to see some sleet and snow in the mix, and that could certainly cover up the road. So I like the background image on this graphic because you've got the icing on the trees, and then you've got the roads that are getting covered up in some of the sleet and snow.
Nick England says the Elizabethtown Kroger store was a mess, crazy busy. Also the gas stations. Laura Lee Bell, de-icer was bare at shelves at Walmart and Tractor Supply, luckily found at AutoZone in Shelby County.
It's almost like an Easter egg hunt out there for supplies right now.
And because once again, this ice storm reminds me of one thing of 2009, and that is we really went into the deep freeze in 2009. But our temperatures are going to go down to the single digits, by Friday, and just rebound a little bit through the weekend.
So Friday we're in the 20s in the day, and then Friday night we're down to the single digits. Saturday we're only around 30, 31 for a high. So, yeah, again, it won't be until Sunday when things really start to melt off across the area.
Say you couldn't get a generator and you don't have a home generator and you're just thinking, okay, I can tough this out of my house with no heat. How many days do you think that would be possible to do? Maybe you can build a fire or whatever. 'Cause there are a lot of folks who want to just stick it out.
I mean, it's going to stay chilly in the 30s into next week as well. So you would definitely need a lot of blankets. And it's not just about the generators being out of supply. I've seen a lot of comments. A lot of folks can't afford a generator. They're expensive. So there are a lot of homes out there that if the power goes out are going to be dealing with the chilly temperatures.
Let's see. Lori Wilson, I had to go all the way to Scottsburg to get portable propane heater because Orschelines, because in Salem, Indiana, is completely out of any kind of heating propane, and Scottsburg was starting to run out of generators as well. Thornton's in New Albany, State Street, could not get in the parking lot.
Again, that supply chain going down as everybody gets ready for it. Now, I want to discuss this very quickly. This is always confusing. We talk about freezing rain, we talk about sleet. Freezing rain is regular rain that freezes after landing on objects. And the reason why we have freezing rain, we've got a shallow, very shallow layer of cold polar air over the top of that cold air. Let's just say 1,000 foot deep. You get up to 1,000, 2,000 feet, you're above freezing. So the liquid rain hits the ground, freezes. That's the clear ice. The sleet are the ice pellets that hit your car, your windshield. They're kind of bouncing around. We might see about a ½ inch to an inch of sleet on top of the ice. Both of those different types of precip are bad for the roads and, of course, have some very big impacts on our area.
So we're going to be here with you until 7 o'clock. If you're just joining us, this is Doug Proffitt along with our chief meteorologist, Ben Pine, and go ahead and post your message on our Facebook page here. We did this last night, had a lot of great questions from many of you, our viewers, who really want us to zero in on different counties. We've been doing that for you here today. There's one question that came in a minute ago about Marion County, Kentucky, Ben.
Marion County, you're under the ice storm warning from 7 a.m. until Friday morning. You're looking, I would say, about a ½ inch of ice. You're right on the edge of that quarter to maybe a ½ inch of icing. I don't think you're going to see very much sleet or snow. It's going to be mostly an icing issue for your area.
And so let's talk about, we are more of an SUV town now than we were even in '09. Of course, Louisville really blossomed in an SUV town after the winter storm of '94. Any SUV or size of tire you've ever seen do well on ice?
If you get a lot of ice, I don't even know if the salt trucks would do very well on it. I mean, ice
heavy.
is an ice rink. I mean, that's going to be a problem. So they're going to need to get on it right away on, again, the main thoroughfares and get that salt down right at that right time when it's not going to wash off anymore, and you start to see that wintry precipitation move in. So that's a tough decision for them.
And I think it is so good to remind us all, and I had to be reminded of this even though that 2009 does seem like yesterday. These ice storms are like an accordion effect. You will hear the sound of the pellets, you will see the freezing rain, then the sound of the pellets, and the roads won't be bad right off of the bat. Like Ben has been telling you, it's going to catch up to us midday. I would think that tomorrow night, maybe around when we're on the air, about 4 or 5, 6 or 7, you think, Ben? Maybe if we're even doing this again, that's when we're going to see a lot of reports coming in.
And we're gonna send a crew, of course, into southern Indiana first to see what the impacts are there, and then we're going to know that that's going to be heading down to the south throughout the day. So we're going to give you a heads up as this begins, in the middle of the storm, and to the end of the storm. With meteorologist T.G. Shuck Friday morning and Chelsea Smith. We're going to be covering all the way through for you.
It could be one of these things, too. So tomorrow, Thursday, we will go into the evening hours, and it will get worse and worse. By the time you wake up Friday morning, I hope you don't lose power overnight. It's not the best thing. That's when it always seemed to happen to me. It was 2, 3 in the morning, and all of a sudden, whoosh, and then you're left with, okay, here I go. But that could be the scenario Friday, is when we really start getting the major impact of this thing across the state. The governor has called a state of emergency. He believes it could be one of the worst storms we've had so far in the state, period.
I mean, and think of all the roads that don't get treated. You're going to have ice-covered neighborhood roads, side streets, and then on top of the clear ice, let's put some sleet on that. And then on top of the sleet, another inch or 2 of snow. So that's into Friday morning. Friday morning is probably going to be the worst out of all of this. One more time as we cruise through the impacts and the alerts here. We'll go full screen. Light icing initially, where we have the winter storm warning for our top 3 counties, Jackson, Jennings, and Lawrence. But you're looking at more significant sleet and snow. You guys might see 3 to 6 inches of a combination of sleet and snow. Southern Indiana counties under the ice storm warning in purple, 1/4 to a ½ inch of ice. This kicks in at 1 a.m., this ice storm warning, and an additional 1 to 3 inches of sleet and snow possible. Our Kentucky counties, including Metro Louisville, this begins at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, this ice storm warning, 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of ice. When you get up to about a half to 3/4 of an inch of ice, that's when we start to see the power outages, the tree damage, and of course the roads get really bad as well. One thing we haven't mentioned, Doug, is the fact that with like 90% of ice storms, the winds are less than 10 miles per hour.
Aha, that's a good question. Margaret Gibbs McCain is asking, will the winds add to the chance of the power outage?
Yes, because this is a very rare ice storm where the winds could gust 30 miles per hour. So the weight of ice is like 500 pounds per like a half inch on the power lines.
It's the worst sound when you hear it too.
So then we've got
cutting into the power lines.
The mass of the air particles at 30 miles per hour, tree limbs moving around. So that will definitely give us another factor there as far as the potential for power outages.
I think Steve asked on here, yes, he's just tuning in. So when are the roads expected to be bad? Well, Metro Louisville, you'll have a window in the morning. Up to what would you think, 3 o'clock, that you could probably drive safely, but you don't want to be far away because you're just going to have to get right back into the barn, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the roads are okay in the morning. Watch out for the untreated roads though, and then into the afternoon we'll just continue to get worse and worse. You don't get hit by ice right away. It's a slow process typically. And there's that big storm. I want to go back to Futurecasts because I know folks are just joining on. We'll go through the timeline hour by hour one more time.
Real quickly,
before we wrap things up.
Stephanie and Jackson and Bardstown, it appears as though Bardstown will get about the same as Louisville. Am I right on Bardstown?
Bardstown, exactly correct. Okay. You're right there around that 1/4 to a half inch, maybe even up to 3/4 of an inch. There's the freezing line. This is max HD radar. This is not Futurecast, so this is what's happening now. So that 32-degree line, what we don't want. Notice how slowly it's moving to the east. And so as we look at the #1 impact across the ice storm warned area, which is most of the WHS-11 viewing area, and keep in mind, WHS-11 covers more than 30 counties in Indiana and Kentucky, so we're going to have different impacts across the area. That's why we've got these different alerts. The dark area indicates the higher ice potential. That's from the Ohio River down to the Bluegrass and Western Kentucky Parkways and communities in between. That's your ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch, a little less south, a little less north. Snowfall totals, impressive for much of southern Indiana. Could see several inches of snowfall with sleet. This is that hour by hour here with Futurecast, Doug, and notice this is midnight. You're starting to see that freezing line move into southern Indiana. Light icing could be occurring in Paoli, Bedford at that time.
So that's midnight just a few hours from now, about 5 hours from now or so, okay.
So here's sunrise tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. You're starting to see that freezing line move into Louisville. And so light icing starts to occur on elevated objects. It's going to take a while for the roads to start to freeze up. And then the freezing line moves south down towards the Cumberland Parkway late afternoon. So you guys down south are the latest to see the switch from rain to freezing rain and sleet. Notice we got snow in the picture now in southern Indiana into the afternoon tomorrow. So you've got 4 different types of precip in our viewing area, rain to freezing rain to sleet to snow. And then it all switches over to just frozen precipitation, sleet, snow, Thursday night. And on and off light snow showers continue into Friday morning. That's Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning. And very cold temperatures as well.
You know, Ben, we've seen in the past with these storms that sometimes they speed up, and that's always a nice surprise. Do you expect that could happen with this?
I don't, because it's almost a stationary system until we finally get the jet stream to kick it out of here. The jet stream is oriented from southwest to northeast, the same as the front, so there's nothing to push it out of here. So if you want to get deep into meteorology, the low levels and the upper levels are in the same position, so there's nothing to get this to kick through. What we're sneaking underneath that warm layer above us is that shallow Arctic layer. So that you've got rain coming down, freezing on contact. It's kind of a rare setup, ice storms, but it's happening tomorrow.
We did see in 2009 that a lot of hotels raised their rates suddenly. I hope that doesn't happen with this storm. I know some people just don't have another place to go and want
the gas prices seem to be up today.
The gas prices really shot through the roof.
$3.40 a gallon.
Everybody is talking about that. We certainly hear you on that too as well. So keep that in mind. If you can book early and maybe negotiate, maybe call the front desk, talk to a hotel manager, try to get a rate you saw previously before this forecast really zoned in. That might be a good thing for you to do. And we've got about 5 minutes left here on this special 30-minute Facebook page for you. I'm Doug Proffitt along with Ben Pine. So give us your questions. You can post them on the Facebook page. As we come along tonight at 11 o'clock on the night team on WHS 11, we hope to be showing you live pictures from around the region to give you an idea of where it stands, to help you plan your day. But a lot of schools are already out, and even the government leaders were telling businesses, let your workers work from home.
And I want to emphasize what you just mentioned. Your participation at home is going to help us so much. We call it nowcasting. When the ice is starting to accumulate, we really need to see your pictures, your reports, whether it's on Facebook, or you can send it to your photos at WHS11.com. Again, your photos at WHS11.com. Your reports are so important that we can relay it to the National Weather Service. We can see what's happening in real time, match it up with what's on Futurecast. Meteorologically speaking, it is a great deal of help to get those reports.
Getting people from Elizabeth, Indiana. Hi, Beverly. Thanks for weighing in there. And also Joanne down in Adair County. Love Adair County, Kentucky, down to our southern viewing area. I think, Ben, that this has been an interesting winter storm, unlike I have seen happen in a while, and that everybody was so sure that this was going to come together and play out exactly like it is. Because we're all skeptical, and you're skeptical with a lot of these forecasts because the models many times are so out there, and then they need to come together. But this one was a much different storm. Is that a sort of a precursor of maybe forecasting in the future here on storms like this?
Well, every storm system is different. We can have a much less impactful, say, light snow that the weather models aren't handling well at all. So it might be a day in advance. We're like, I think we finally know what's going to happen. But with this storm, the weather models were locking on since late weekend and into Monday. And the reason for that is, again, I think the stationary nature of it, the observations that we're getting into the weather models, and they were in really a good agreement. We talk about the Euro's doing this, the GFS is doing that, and the Canadian weather model this, and they've all been very similar over the last several days. That's why the confidence in this forecast has been so high. And of course, you're seeing that polar air that I just showed you. It's there.
Do you think the power outages will be as bad in southern Indiana with the snow, or is that going to give them the break they need from the ice storm we expect?
That's a good question. I think the power outages won't be as bad when you're outside of that half to 3/4 of an inch of ice area. Now, this is not set in stone. That bullseye area from the Ohio River to the Bluegrass Parkway could still shift a little bit north or a little bit south. That's why we need your reports when we talk about that nowcasting. But anytime you can get in the lighter ice accumulation area, farther north, farther south, outside of that bullseye, you're going to fare much better as far as power outages, negative impacts, tree limbs snapping, and all that kind of thing. And you mentioned the sound of an ice storm. Tree limb snapping is not a good sound.
You never forget it, especially if it's happening in the middle of the night. Laura, yes, winds in Elizabethtown will probably be an issue too, and could lead to...
All across the area, winds will be gusting 20 to 30 miles per hour. Imagine a half inch of ice on the tree limbs, on the pine trees that just droop down to the ground, and then smack it with 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. That could certainly make things worse as far as the tree damage, and I'm sure the tree services out there are going to be very busy over the next week or two.
So we're going to wrap up this special 30-minute Facebook Live report for you tonight. Ben and I hope to be back here at the same time tomorrow night. If we're not continuing on the air on WHS 11, we'll be playing that by ear. But again, tomorrow we'll have so much more to talk about. Coming up on our WHS 11 night team broadcast at 11 o'clock, we have a team of reporters out right now. They're going to show you what's going on in the after hours at the local supermarkets and the gas stations and the hardware stores. And then, like I said, we have a crew up in southern Indiana to keep an eye on when that could possibly switch over. So we really thank you for joining us. We hope this has been helpful. And again, hope you will join us tomorrow night here on WHS 11 and in the Facebook page.
And I can't wait to see Tom's report from Seymour on the night team, because that'll give us a great idea of if we're seeing the icing starting.
He said that when he was in that store in Seymour that put the sign up about the generators, that 30 people in a short period of time walked in. That's why they had to put the sign up, and they had no one.
So stay safe, everybody. I hope we can all stay warm. I hope you dodge the power outages, and we'll have a lot more coming up on the 19. Thanks for tuning in.